right. Hey, folks. Monkey here with Bunkman Hangout. A brand new venture for me. This is certainly outside of my comfort zone, doing a YouTube podcast. It's something I thought about doing for a long time. I just never took the leap. And a couple weeks ago, I met a young gentleman named Jake. And Jake was an Army crew chief and a Black Hawk. And 1 year ago, his Black Hawk went down. He was the only survivor. And he suffered life-altering injuries, and he's been a bit of an inspiration. I thought, hey, man, if this kid can do it, then I could do something like this. So I said, hey, let's give it a whirl. And so here I am. Obviously, I said I'm Bunky, and what is a Bunky? That's me, and that's my call sign. That's what I got in the Navy. Some call signs stick, some don't. You generally don't get a cool call sign. There are no Mavericks or Icemen. How I got mine, since people always ask, is I was married at the time. I just got married in December 95. And my then wife used to call me Honey Bunny, and then it morphed into Hunky Bunky. And, that was all done privately. And well, we were at a squadron dinner. It was advanced jet for those of us who selected E2C2. And that right there is a C2. That's what I flew in the fleet, in the Navy. And she just yelled out Hunky Bunky. And everyone looked at me and they're like, dude, you're Bunky. And for the next 18 years, it stuck. So, and even those who knew me in the Navy, they still call me Bunky. And, that's what I go by. And otherwise, my name is Chris. So, a little background about me. I'm obviously a veteran, 20-year Navy, 20-year Navy pilot. Post Navy, I did some civilian flying, and I did some ISI work, and then I flew for two different companies, flying the rich and famous, Wheels Up, and NetJets. I'm from Mississippi, born there, grew up in Southern California. I loved airplanes since I was a little boy. Not so long ago, my mom was she was moving, and in a box she found a piece of paper. Maybe it was like, I don't know, first grade. And it said, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I drew an airplane. I said, pilot. So, when I was young, we used to go to, 10, 12, we used to go to Lake Paris, and it's a lake near March Air Force Base. And I would watch Air Force bombers and F-4s go by, and I was just mesmerized. And I thought, man, that's something I really like to do. And then in 1983, I think it was 83, my stepfather takes me to Naval Air Station, Point Mugu Air Show. And the first time I see the Blue Angels, and I was just in awe. And I see these guys walking around. They're in their whites. They got wings of gold. They just look sharp. And I thought, maybe that's something I'd rather do than the Air Force. And in 1986, there was this unknown movie. Maybe some of you heard of it, called Top Gun. It comes out, and I'm like, hey, I have got to be a Navy fighter pilot flying off carriers. So I buckled down. My academics weren't that great. I didn't have a great SAT score. So I ended up applying to a couple state schools, and I got accepted to Cal Poly Pomona. But luckily, the NROTC program, that's Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps at UCLA, had a crosstown program where you could go to another campus and then you could attend ROTC. And how it worked at the time is since I didn't have really the grades to get a scholarship, they had something called college programs. You call them up and you go, hey, man, I like to come join your units. They invited me down for interview. I interviewed and it went well. So I started doing it that way. And then I actually picked up a 2-year NROTC scholarship, and that was great. So Navy paid for my last 2 years of school, and I ended up, I was commissioned in, 1 April of 1993. I went to API thereafter, and it's called, that stood for Aviation Pre-Flight Indoctrination. I'm not sure if they have it anymore, but it was 6 weeks of academics, water survival, land survival. And then I went to flight school, and I selected E2C2s, and I didn't get my first choice, which was jets. Sometimes the needs of the Navy come first and performance comes second, and it just is what it is. Got winged in July 96. In my 20 years, I did 2 tours with the squadron called VRC 30, the providers. They were out of San Diego. I did 4 different 6-month deployments with them. I did a tour with VAW 120 as an instructor pilot, teaching folks to fly the C2 Greyhound. I also did a tour where I was the officer in charge of a prep school for all Royal Saudi Navy pilots, and I was a primary instructor at the same time with the squadron called VT6 out of Whiting Field. I did a non-flying tour out of Korea, Pier 8. I was the executive officer, what we call XO in the Navy, Military Sea Left Command Office, Korea. And I finished my Navy career out of Kingsville, Texas, Training Wing 2. Flying the T-45 Goshawk as a intermediate and advanced jet instructor. Absolute best flying I ever did. And so I ended my career on a high note. I always wanted to be an airline guy, and I thought, hey, that's the life I wanted to lead. But in 2013, the airlines weren't hiring that much. They had a few guys, just not me. And I ended up going to a company called L3. They had 2 different programs that I was a part of, S4 and Java Man. And I was doing ISR missions, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, flying MC-12, or basically a Super King Air, had a lot of electronic equipment, had an eye, what we call the ball. Some had 2 balls. And We would, do pattern life stuff and also hunt down Taliban. And if we found a bad guy who was on the list and he was out in the open, we teamed up with the shooter and we took care of that problem forever. Did that for about 3 years, 18 months. I got old after a while, just, a lot of long nights when they would, launch rocket attacks. And I was probably in 50, 60 rocket attacks. And bad weather, and just it was tough flying. It was pretty nerve wracking. Ended up flying for a company after that called Wheels Up, flying rich and famous. Just same sort of aircraft, a King Air, but super slick, super nice. And then following that, I ended up flying with NetJets, the world's largest private jet company owned by Warren Buffett. Fantastic job. I flew a fantastic aircraft. It was Citation Sovereign. Absolutely loved that jet. That all came to an end in 2019. Unfortunately, had some tragedy in my family. My brother passed away, and I've been having a lot of issues, probably dating back to even Kingsville, but certainly from L3 on, where I had a lot of physical issues, chest pains, and getting sick a lot of stomach aches, and ended up I had anxiety, and I was diagnosed with PTSD. There's a lot of reasons behind that, and certainly episodes I would like to talk about it. From childhood trauma. I was in a mishap, plane crash. I was in the right seat when I was at VW 120, and then Afghanistan and my brother's death and things that just kind of piled up in my backpack of life. And I didn't deal with it properly and ended up costing me a couple things, my FA medical and relationships and whatnot. I moved from San Antonio, got divorced, went to California, came back. And so here I am, new venture. This is something that I've been thinking about doing. And so I'm doing it now. And this will be episode one. I like to talk mainly about veteran stuff and anything vet related, but of course, ramblings of an old man, maybe just, talk about anything that comes up. Try to steer away from politics unless it falls within the realm of veteran issues. So, if you like this sort of stuff and you definitely like aviation, because that's stuff I will talk about, then like, subscribe, and go from there. Bunk out.